Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unlocking what I honestly think is the ultimate survival guide for the modern citizen. We are going to take a massive, dense compendium of Indian law and translate it into a clear, everyday toolkit. Seriously, whether you're signing a lease, starting a side hustle, or just want to actually understand your fundamental rights, this stuff isn't just for lawyers. It's the operating system of our society, and knowing how it works is absolutely empowering. So let's jump right in.
Here is our roadmap for the journey. We're breaking this down into 5 logical steps: personal life and contracts, business and workplace protections, safeguarding society and environment, understanding civil liabilities, and finally, the criminal justice system. Section 1. Personal life and contracts. Let's start close to home and look at the rules that govern our most personal relationships and our daily agreements. Let's talk about marriage. Under the Hindu Marriage Act of 1955, making it legally official requires a few strict conditions. You need free consent, obviously. Neither person can have a living spouse, and they can't fall under prohibited degrees of relationship like the Sapindas rules, which essentially means close blood relatives, unless a specific custom allows it. Age is also strict, 21 for the groom, 18 for the bride. But what happens if things just really aren't working out? The law has this fascinating mechanism called judicial separation. If there's cruelty, adultery, desertion, or mental disorder, a couple can legally live apart. The marriage itself isn't fully dissolved yet. The legal bond is still there. It's kind of like a legal timeout, giving the couple space to potentially reconcile without being forced to live together.
Now, what about agreements outside of marriage? Under the 1872 Contract Act, 6 specific pieces have to click together for a contract to be legally binding. Imagine you're buying a used motorcycle for 50,000 rupees. First, there's the offer and acceptance. You agree to buy, they agree to sell. Second is lawful consideration. You're swapping cash for a bike, both hold value. Third is competency. You're both of legal age and sound mind. Fourth is free consent. Nobody is being blackmailed here. Fifth, the object is lawful. It's a legal bike, not stolen goods. And finally, possibility of performance. Handing over the bike is physically possible. If you are missing even one of these 6 elements, your contract might just be a worthless piece of paper. Section 2. Business and workplace protections. Okay, so that's our personal lives. But what happens to your legal shields when you step out the front door and dive into the business world? Let's take a look.
It's all about how the law actually views your business structure. If you're a sole proprietor, you and your business are literally the exact same thing in the eyes of the law. There's no separation. That means you have what's called unlimited liability. If the business crashes and burns into debt, your personal savings, maybe even your house, are on the line. But if you form a company, it's a totally different ballgame. You create a separate legal entity with limited liability. The company becomes its own legal person, effectively building a fortress around your personal finances.
Because those corporate shields are so incredibly valuable, organizations often want to upgrade. Say an interstate cooperative society wants to become a producer company to get better governance. They can't just flip a switch. It's a rigorous process. They have to convene a meeting to pass a special resolution, apply to the registrar of companies with their foundational documents, and officially obtain an incorporation certificate. Only then can they transfer their assets and start operating behind that shiny new corporate shield.
And inside those businesses, the law casts a massive safety net for workers. We're talking core Social Security, health protections under the ESI Act, retirement funds through the EPF Act, and vital maternity benefits. And all of this is actually being modernized by the 2020 Code on Social Security. But the law doesn't just protect workers, it dictates who can work in the first place. The Child Labor Act was heavily upgraded in 2016 to completely ban the employment of children under 14 in most occupations. It's a hard line drawn to ensure a child's health and education always come first.
Section 3. Safeguarding society and environment. We're zooming out now, from the office to the actual physical world we all share, the air we breathe, and the water we drink. India has erected some towering legislative pillars for sustainable development. You've got dedicated acts for water, air, and the overarching Environment Protection Act of 1986. There are also specific laws guarding forests and wildlife. But here's the thing. Laws are completely useless if they get stuck in court for decades. That is exactly why the National Green Tribunal Act was created in 2010. It acts as a fast-track system, bypassing the traditional clogged-up courts to deliver rapid environmental justice.
Which leads us to a pretty intense question. It's one thing to have environmental rules on paper, but what happens in reality when things go horribly wrong? If a hazardous factory leaks toxic gas and harms an entire city, who pays? How does the law handle a catastrophe of that scale?
Section 4. Understanding civil liabilities. To answer that disaster scenario, we need to understand how the justice system splits into 2 very different paths. Let's explore the first one, civil law.
Think of civil and criminal law as two completely different toolkits. Civil law is for private disputes, like someone breaking a contract. The injured party starts the lawsuit. The goal is usually financial compensation to make them whole again, and the burden of proof is relatively low. Criminal law is a whole different beast. It deals with offenses against society itself. The state comes after you. The goal is punishment, like prison time. And because the stakes are so high, the burden of proof is intense. It has to be proven beyond reasonable doubt.
Tucked away inside that civil law toolkit is a concept known as a tort. Now, a tort isn't a broken contract. It is a civil wrong where someone's actions, or their failure to act, causes you harm or loss. And the way the law fixes a tort is by awarding damages, meaning financial compensation paid from the wrongdoer to the victim. But let's say you're the one accused of a tort. How do you defend yourself? Well, the law has these fascinating loopholes called general defenses. You could claim it was an act of God, or totally inevitable. My favorite is a Latin concept called volenti non fit injuria, which basically translates to consent. If someone willingly agreed to a risk, like, say, signing up to go skydiving, they can't sue the pilot for the sheer terror of falling. They consented to the risk up front, totally erasing the tort liability.
Okay, remember that dramatic question about the hazardous factory leak? Here is where Indian civil law literally changed the game. For over a century, courts used strict liability, an old rule from an 1868 case. It meant if dangerous stuff escaped your land, you paid. But, and this is a big but, you were allowed exceptions, like an act of God. But after the devastating MC Mita oleum gas leak in 1987, the Supreme Court said, no, strict liability isn't strong enough for modern toxic industries. They invented absolute liability. Under this rule, if your hazardous factory harms the public, you pay. Zero exceptions, zero loopholes. The liability is absolute.
Now, logistically, if you're ever dragged into a civil dispute, the very first critical document you file to defend yourself is called the written statement. It's not just a casual letter to the judge. It forces the defendant to lay all their cards on the table, clearly admitting or denying every single allegation and outlining their specific legal defenses. It essentially draws the battle lines for the entire case.
Section 5. The Criminal Justice System. All right, let's pivot. What happens when the wrong isn't just a dispute over money, but a full-blown crime against society? This brings us to the heavy machinery of the state. The criminal procedure involves 11 highly technical steps, but we can distill them into a clear timeline. It almost always starts with an FIR, the first information report. The police then secure the crime scene, gather evidence, and interview witnesses. If needed, they execute search warrants and arrest suspects, followed by medical exams. Everything goes into a meticulous case diary until the police finalize a charge sheet and hand the whole package over to the magistrate for trial. Now, because the state holds so much power in this process, the Constitution gives the accused some incredibly robust shields under Articles 20 to 22. You can't be charged for something that wasn't actually illegal when you did it. You are protected from double jeopardy, getting tried twice for the exact same crime, and you never have to testify against yourself. You have a fundamental right to a lawyer. And, crucially, if you're arrested, the police legally must produce you before a magistrate within 24 hours. No secret detentions allowed.
Inside the courtroom, the rules for what counts as evidence are incredibly strict. Hearsay is almost never allowed. But there's a fascinating, powerful exception, the dying declaration. Under Section 32 of the Evidence Act, if a dying person states the cause of their death, it is fully legally admissible. The legal psychology here is profound. The system operates on the deep-rooted belief that a person standing at the very edge of death has absolutely no reason to lie. It can literally form the entire basis of a conviction.
And who enforces all of this? The police force, which operates on a massive organizational ladder. It cascades all the way from the Director General of Police at the absolute top, down through the inspectors, right to the constables patrolling the streets. But no matter what badge they wear, their core mission remains identical: maintain public order, prevent crime, investigate offenses, and protect the lives and property of the citizens.
But, as the source material readily points out, the system is not perfect. It has to evolve. The text highlights several urgent reforms. We need aggressive modernization, especially in cybercrime units to fight digital threats. But we also need massive structural changes, cutting out political interference, enforcing strict accountability, embracing community policing, and significantly increasing the representation of women so the force actually looks like the society it's sworn to protect.
Which leaves us with this final, incredibly resonant thought from the source.
A professional, accountable, and technologically advanced police force is essential for maintaining law and order and ensuring justice in India. And that's really the whole point, isn't it? Contracts, environmental shields, civil rights, none of these tools work unless the system backing them is fair, modern, and accountable to you. I hope this explainer gave you a powerful new perspective on the legal world moving all around us. So, what rights are you going to exercise?